this by no means was it exhaustive, but I've found a number of studies I'll share with you. And what really surprised me was a lack of correlation between Cushing's disease or Cushing syndrome and fibromyalgia. As I've stated earlier, I've had Cushing's and I could have been the poster child for all things fibromyalgia. So I had already reviewed a patient profile who had fibromyalgia and they acted all shocked and amazed. So there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect or lack of common sense in evaluating that. First of all, what I would like to do is repeat what Dr. Theodore Friedman stated in a prior video, but I can't put enough emphasis on this. And he collected some studies, and it's asking the question, is Cushing syndrome rare? And he states, probably not. And I'll go over what he found. In 2003, 200 overweight type 2 diabetics were tested for Cushing's. 2% tested positive for Cushing's, and 3.5% needed further follow-up. The next studies from 2007 showed 5% of diabetic patients failed to suppress to dexamethasone. This is one of several tests for Cushing's, and this failure is an indicator for Cushing's. 5%. Okay, in 2004, this is the one that is mind-blowing to me. Of 100 consecutive obese patients, 11% were diagnosed with Cushing's. That's 11 out of 100 people. And, according to the body index charts, it really doesn't take that much weight gain to be considered obese. Okay, again in 2004, 1,020 patients with high blood pressure were tested, and 11 had Cushing's and 10 had subclinical Cushing's for a total of 2%. This is no other symptom that they're testing these people, and Cushing's is showing up. And what Dr. Friedman said, these studies may have missed milder cases of Cushing's, and I'll add to that, or subclinical Cushing's, I guess that's mild, or cyclic, and that's harder to catch in the act. And then he says maybe Cushing's is not so rare. So I just cannot emphasize enough for people, if they have unexplained weight gain, to get your A1C checked, to get, monitor your blood pressure, get, what was the other one? And your cholesterol. High cholesterol, some of the combination of things, including high cholesterol, could be Cushing's, low growth hormone, problems with your thyroid, PCOS, and metabolic syndrome. And of course, these are all illnesses on their own merit, and fibromyalgia maybe too, but I just want to explore all the options. The rest of the video, and it may go into a part 2, I'm going to do in chronological order. I'm just hitting some high points in the studies of fibromyalgia, to give you a broad view of what's been going on in the medical community. Of course, it is not all-encompassing. Okay, and this first one is from 1991. We're talking, over 25 years ago, and it's titled Severe Fibromyalgia After Hypophysectomy, and that's the removal of the pituitary gland for Cushing syndrome. And it states, we report a case of fibromyalgia occurred after removal of the pituitary gland for Cushing's disease. Clinical examination revealed tender points at 12 of the 18 sites described by the American College of Rheumatology 1990 criteria. The cause of the fibromyalgia remains unknown. In our patient, the removal of the pituitary gland may have played a role by disturbing endorphin secretion and pain modulation. And I looked up endorphin. I knew it was a feel-good hormone, but to break it down, endo means made within, and the fin is morphine. So it's an opiate made within your body. And also with endorphins, they make it analogous to cortisol. So this is the first ding, 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 associating fibromyalgia with the pituitary gland and cortisol too, for that matter. We don't know how this patient was treated. Okay, next. Please feel free to pause the video at any time. The title of this study is Hypothalamic Pituitary Adrenal Axis Perturbations in Patients with Fibromyalgia. Now they've been looking at this for 25 years. This study was done in 1994. So, the point being, they've been looking at this for a long time. This is a relatively small study done on 12 patients, but the results state patients with fibromyalgia had low 24-hour urinary free cortisol. And I'll just comment, this is a part of a study, so I'm not going to be heavy-handed about it at all, because they're looking at all of it. But a 24-hour urine is looking for high cortisol, as in Cushing syndrome, but they're finding they have low cortisol. Okay. And the fibromyalgia patients had normal peak and elevated trough in their plasma cortisol levels. Plasma would just be a regular blood draw. Normal peak and elevated trough. Cortisol does not run in a straight line throughout the day. It peaks in the morning. That's what helps wake you up, get your energy going, and gradually declines throughout the day. So what they're saying is that it's normal, like say in the morning, but it's too high at where it should be at the low point of the day. And if you combine that with the urinary cortisol, I don't mean to jump to conclusions, but it reads like that cortisol might be tanking at some point in the day. It doesn't say. But I mean, it's just putting two and two together. Okay, so they did a stim test, and this showed a hyporesponsiveness. The adrenal glands are not responding fully to the stim test. And when you do these stim tests, this is a diagnostic criteria for adrenal insufficiency, okay? Plain and simple. They did use the OCRH, and this particular one is an ovine, it's a hypothalamic hormone, whereas in today's studies they would use cortrosyn, and that would be like the pituitary pharmaceutical grade of the testing. So that has changed over time. But and then they did test the AVP, and that is a pituitary hormone. And they are stating it wasn't significantly different between fibromyalgia and control subjects, but variability was greater among the fibromyalgia patients. They're not saying if it's higher or lower, but something's going on with the pituitary, at least in those particular people. And they also tested plasma NPY, and that's neuropeptide Y. And as an aside, that is a peptide is a messenger, and it's part of your neurological system. And this responds to stress, and it also helps regulate your sleep-wake cycle. And it's right on the same page in a certain sense of cortisol. Okay, what they say about that, the levels were significantly lower in fibromyalgia. And in conclusion, they are saying that the HPA-Axis is perturbed in fibromyalgia patients going all the way back to 1994.
A ella le gusta, a mí me gusta, así le gusta, vaya me gusta, a ella le gusta. Mami, mami, con tu body, este party es un safari. Todo mira como bailas, hoy tú andas con un animal. Mami, mami, con tu body, este party es un safari. Todo mira como bailas, hoy tú andas, baila pa' mí. Vente conmigo, a mí me gusta, a sola conmigo, así le gusta. Vente conmigo, baila mi gusta, a sola conmigo, a ella le gusta. Aja mere paas tu, a mí me gusta. Chali a mere paas tu, así le gusta. Aja mere paas tu, a mí me gusta. Chali a mere paas tu. Todo ese cuerpo que tú tienes me vuelve loco, y más cuando balas para mí. Esa mirada provoca y tú toda loca, te mordes los labios cuando son le vi. Oye papi, ऐसे उसने मुझे पुकार और आँखों से किए वो इशारा, मैं हो गया उसका दीवाना. Baby, así lo que me gusta, उसके फिगर ने crazy किया पागल. मैं हुआ क्या बताऊं दुनिया को, तुझे दिल में बसाया, तुम्हें अपना बनाया. Just give me one chance, be with you. A mí me gusta, así le gusta, baila me gusta, a ella le gusta. Mami, mami, con tu body, esta party es un safari. Todo mira como bailas, hoy tú andas con un animal. Mami, mami, con tu body, esta party es un safari. Todo mira como bailas, hoy tú andas, baila pa' mí. Vente conmigo, a mí me gusta, a sola conmigo, así le gusta. Vente conmigo, baila mi gusta, a sola conmigo, a mí le gusta. Aja mere paas tu, a mí me gusta. Chali a mere paas tu, así le gusta. Aja mere paas tu, a mí me gusta. Chali a mere paas tu. Saca la fiera que le vas a ir, ese estilo salvaje que me gusta cuando se pone de baila. Empiezo a mirarla, la tela me arranca, seguimos aquí. Oye papi, ऐसे उसने मुझे पुकार और आँखों से किए वो इशारा, मैं हो गया उसका दीवाना. Baby, así lo que me gusta, उसके फिगर ने crazy किया पागल. मैं हुआ क्या बताऊं दुनिया को, तुझे दिल में बसाया, तुम्हें अपना बनाया. Just give me one chance, be with you. A mí me gusta, así le gusta, baila me gusta, a ella le gusta. A mí me gusta, así le gusta, baila me gusta, a ella le gusta. A mí me gusta.